So, you want to build Lucy. I'm going to give you a basic rundown of her, and then towards the latter half of this video, I will want to focus on either A, constellations, and B, how she compares to Soukaku. Now, keeping in mind, I do use Lucy a lot more, so you kind of already get a gist of who I prefer, but still, I want to be transparent with it. Now, early game, I want a lot of you to know that since nobody is level 60, with 60 being our max level, we don't have access to the highest level of base attack before you consider attack percentage scaling on the rest of her equipment. And as a result of that, you may have different numbers. At the same time, constellations greatly affect the overall effectiveness of this unit. With that being said, let's talk. If you want to be cheap about it, you have three main priorities when investing into Lucy. First off, her initial level. Second off, her 2 engine. And then third off, you're going to primarily focus on her EX skill. This is the entire bulk of her attack transfer. So you can leave everything else at level 1 and only focus on this, even including these. I only recommend A, C, and E strictly because they improve that energy regen, but realistically, you go for something like Swing Jazz and be fine. Now, Lucy's attack scales off her EX skill, which scales off her overall attack. Don't worry about her base attack prior to buffs. The game will consider this attack stat right here as the buff or her base attack within combat, and so the buff is based off that. Basically, this essentially circumvents the issue with Genshin has with Bennett, because you don't have to worry about the base attack of your 2 engine. Instead, you only have to worry about her overall attack stat. This allows you to go for something with energy regen. If something else comes out and you're in a position to where you like this, her initial signature, but don't necessarily have an attachment to it, or maybe have that sitting around because you don't have another unit to give it to you, you can just go for that. Energy regen is an important thing to have, and how flexible the attack buff, or whatever buff it gives overall, is nice to consider, but keep in mind, attack percentage will have diminishing returns at some point. You want to have a varied substat distribution, especially for your DPS. In my situation, I use Lucy, Koleda, Nekomata. Because of the way Lucy works, you can slot her in anywhere. The only thing her attribute and additional ability does is transfer her crit over to her boars. They aren't dealing a significant portion of your team's damage, and because most of you won't have her build with crit, it doesn't matter. Now, with all that being said, what else should you know? First and foremost, Lucy has, in my opinion, 3 separate stages that can dramatically change her build. If you have cinemas, her build changes. If you have her skills high level, 8, 9, 10, 12, and above, her build changes. This is because Lucy can max out at 600 attack. What this does mean is that if you're going for something like talent level or skill level 10, or even skill level 12, which you will get once you can crown her later on, at these points, you basically want to consider every 2 skill levels beyond 8, you can remove 100 attack you need to gain on her, because once again, you only need 600 at max to be transferred. So in this instance, it's 20% attack plus 80 basically. 20% of 2000 attack is going to be 400. Plus 80, that's 500, 2,200, this essentially maxes her out. Essentially what this means is, if you are at a lower level Lucy, maybe you don't have her current ascension up, or maybe you don't have her skill at level 8 or 9, your attack stats would be different. Here's what I would recommend. Below level 50, and more specifically maybe level 40, or below talent level 8, you're going attack on every piece. And I don't care what the set is, you want to maximize her attack, whether that's 2-piece Hormone Punk and 2-piece just random, or no secondary 2-piece. You just want to max out her attack set. Then once you start reaching up into talent level 8, talent level 10, or skills in this game, you can begin to slowly push out and phase out all that attack percentage, because you can dilute it at that point. As you see, as of right now, I'm at 2,255. I'm almost maxing out that attack buff, but I'm running an energy regeneration rope, or energy regeneration 6-slot piece. If you are at talent level 8, you probably want to keep this and slide it over into an attack percentage piece. Then once you crown her or get her to level 10, or if you have a constellation that improves that, you can begin to put an energy regen rope here and replace this with something like fire damage bonus, or keep it as attack if you want to be safe. Anything beyond 10, whether that's 12, whether that's a constellation or cinema that's improving her, allows you to phase that and this 4-slot out for a crit rate piece. Essentially, at max level, crowned or constellations in cinema, you can go for around 1,900 attack. And that's fine. Your build with Lucy, in my opinion, should be 2-piece Hormone Punk, 4-piece Swing Jazz. 4-piece Hormone Punk does give you more attack, yes, but there is a 10-second downtime. And unless you're not getting Lucy's skill back up in the 10 seconds, or unless you don't care as much about it, then I would say go for Swing Jazz, because there is no timer-based mechanic. It's just a flat damage percentage buff. In this instance, what this means is that for 10 seconds of less skill, or essentially 10 seconds of lowered attack down to what she is just without that set bonus, you are getting a slight 25% attack increase. And most of you, No offense, there will be some of you, but most of you will not care enough to actually figure out if that 25% attack buff means anything. And I honestly believe that unless you're in a situation to where you are trying to run a fire damage bonus, energy regen, and crit Lucy with lower level skills, you don't need that attack percentage buff. Swing Jazz is just much more universal because it doesn't just benefit her, it benefits her entire team. Go for 4 Swing Jazz, go for 2 Hormone Punk. If you're looking for W engines, her signature is the best. Then you can go for something like Mark II for energy regen and Mark I for the attack percentage. Mark III sounds good because it does give your party attack, but it gives you A as a substat, and I don't recommend that. Just go for Mark II or Mark I. Don't go for Mark III. Soukaku's Bashful Demon gives you attack percentage. Slice of Time sounds fine because the penetration ratio does benefit you no matter what, and Decibel does allow you to essentially charge up your ultimate more. But honestly, I'd say your priority with Lucy early game, and I'd say pre-level 50 should just be attack percentage or energy regen, like with the Vault. So then, beyond this, if you're looking to build Lucy and you're looking to invest into her, what should you look out for Constellation-wise or cinema-wise? Because I'm gonna keep calling it Constellations. Well, her C2 makes her much more flexible. It basically means that whenever she chains in, she's using her skill and giving your party that attack buff. Her C4 gives her a crit damage buff for your party. That's nice. Her C6 extends the duration of her buff and also gives her more damage. In this instance, by C6, you should be building her out with crit and fire damage bonus, both energy regen or attack percentage, whichever one you have better stats on. In my opinion, pre-C2, there can be a case made where Soukaku is better, but I want you to keep in mind this. For investment priority, Lucy only requires her skill. Soukaku, if you want to increase that attack buff, you have to go all the way down to F, meaning these require a much higher farming priority because these are very expensive. These are bound to your AR rank. Keep that in mind. Second, Soukaku requires much more on-field time. To activate her buff, you need to either A, utilize her skill 3 times and then hold it down, or B, have her chain in which case she'll use her, essentially what is a skill, and then place her buff. Don't get me wrong, her buff lasts longer for 22 seconds, but Lucy's is 10 to 15. And Lucy has much more flexibility. The on-field time requirement is something you want to consider, and in my opinion, I prefer Lucy just because she can be tagged in and out, whereas if you swap into Soukaku, you have to manually swap into somebody else, and sometimes, depending on the position of team, it may just slide into the other character you don't want. Hypothetically, if you want somebody like Nekomata, in my instance, to do her damage, then you need to consider, well, who is Lucy going after? If you're using Soukaku, she may slide in your second slot unit, which in my case would be Koleda. If you're wondering, Soukaku can be pretty flexible as well because the only benefit her additional abilities adding is that ice damage bonus. Don't get me wrong, neither one of these are bad characters, but I think Soukaku excels at buffing the attack of your ice damage units. And if you don't need the extra field time and don't care as much and want a higher flat attack buff, then you can decide, hey, maybe I want to use Soukaku instead, especially if you don't have cons on Lucy. Another thing to consider is the fact that attack does hit at the point of diminishing returns. Lucy's giving you 600 attack. For most of you who don't have your character fully built, you won't be going for something like Woodpecker, but Woodpecker gives you multiple instances of attack, 9, 18, and 27% if you dodge counter. Let's say hypothetically, you're only getting that flat 9%, or maybe the 18% from the skill as well. Then you're getting 18% attack overall, alongside Lucy's 600. And if using Soukaku, that can be up to 1,000. Let's say hypothetically you max out both of their skills. You're getting 1,000 attack, and your additional 18%. Now the 18% that you're getting from Woodpecker Electro counts as your base attack and not necessarily considering buffs. But if you're using a character like Nekomata or anyone else who can maybe run attack percentage, especially if you're not at level 60, you can hit a point where you're getting a bit too much attack. And I think the overall buffs that Lucy offers make her a better character, at least for now. Later on, once we have a more flexible roster and more ice units who can take advantage of, maybe Soukaku pulls ahead. For raw attack buffing, she's great, but early game I think she has better value strictly because Soukaku gives more attack, and if you can't access crit, if you're not accessing damage bonus, if you're not accessing energy regen, then Lucy holds less value unless she's C4. If she's not C4, and if she is C4, that is a very big difference. Whereas Soukaku, 1,000 attack is 1,000 attack is 1,000 attack. You're getting a lot more from her from that. In my opinion, build Lucy, but also build Soukaku. In my opinion, just build them the same way. They just want attack, except in Lucy's case, Constellations can allow you to build ER, crit, and fire damage bonus. Soukaku, you're sticking with that attack. Attack, attack, attack all the way, and energy regen whenever you can. Either way, I think they're both exceptional characters. Soukaku has more tummy showing, I'm not gonna lie, it's very cute. But in the cinema art, I think Lucy wins just because there's less clothes. Better. She's hot. Both of them are hot. Build all of the hot characters. That means build Nekomata, build Koleda, build Lucy, build Soukaku, build Piper and Korin, all of them. Anby included too. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.